You're listening to an ATYL Media production.
Man, there's something about that. Does it sound as good to you listening to it, even though you're a driver? Does it still sound that good?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty badass, man.
Man, that's got to feel good when those things leave. Well, welcome in to Nitro Nation tonight. We're joined by Mr. Matt Hagan. Coming off a tremendous weekend in Pomona, got a lot of accolades knocked out real early in the season. Matt, thank you for your time. I know you said you took a little bit of time out of your son's ball game. We appreciate you taking some time and joining us tonight. How you doing?
Oh, doing great, man. Thank you guys for having me on the show. And I tell you what, it's anytime that we can get out here and talk drag racing, it's always worth doing, you know. And we got some great fans, we got some great sponsors, and I've been so blessed to be out here like 20 years, man. And just one of those things where you really, I remember when I first started, I couldn't get someone to take an autograph. You know, I'd be like, "Come on, guys, take one," you know, and it's just kind of like, "Oh, my guys are watching me," you know. And now over the years, as you've built a fan base and you've done all that stuff, it's just really changed to see how people rally behind you and they get behind the car and it's warming up and they're cheering you on, and that's kind of what pumps me up. So between the fans and just the history of drag racing and everything else, to be in Pomona, where the champions are crowned, to be able to do kind of what we did this last weekend was it just felt magical. You know what I mean? Like we had some big races on the line. Champions are crowned there, and we were able to pull down that thousands funny car win the race, win the too fast too tasty. And Leah was number one qualifier, and Tony won the race too. So I think we took everything except for the change underneath the bleachers. You know.
Hey, you could probably if you'd have swept for it, you probably could have got that too if you'd have really tried. I bet. But hey,
Right.
that actually was one of the things I was wanting to ask you about is Tony coming in racing for Tony Stewart and somebody that has had success in every facet of motorsport he's ever been in, and that mentality that he brings. How has it changed you as a driver? Has it changed you how you approach things? How has Tony coming in, has that helped mold you into a little bit different competitor?
One of those things where when I first started to drive for Tony, I had to look up what he'd done. You know what I mean? Because I never really followed NASCAR, right? Like, so I knew of Tony Stewart, right? Like everybody knows Tony Stewart, but like I never really followed his career. And I was like, man, this dude's gonna be, cutting my paychecks. I better figure out what he's done and how he's doing it and all that kind of stuff and what kind of dude he is. And honestly, he is a genuinely good guy, man. Like, there's one of these days he'll run me off, and I'm sure we'll go different ways as far as doing whatever. I mean, all this stuff has its day in the sun eventually, but he's going to have a hard time running me off as a friend, because he's just that kind of guy that you can't help but like, you know what I mean? And I tell everybody he's one of those good rich dudes, man. Like he just helps people out. I've seen him put people on his plane. I had a guy that was had a kid that was intensive care, and he threw him on his plane, got him home to his family, so he could see his kids in the hospital and stuff like that. I mean, the guy's just always doing things like that to help everybody out. And and there's just a lot of people that don't take the time and energy and money to do stuff like that. And he's just one of those guys where I think that if you really got to know him, there would probably never be a bad word on the internet about him. But unfortunately, you have these keyboard warriors sometimes that don't really know who he is and what he's about, and want to talk the trash. But whatever it may be, I know the guy personally, and not just because he cuts my paycheck, because I've been doing this 20 years, and I've been around a lot of people and seen a lot of things, and he's a good guy, man. I consider him more of a friend than a boss. So it's like anytime that me and him have to sit down, I'm just like, oh, what's this about? You know what I mean? But it's just kind of one of those things where I thought, man, first starting to work for him, I was like, man, is he going to chuck a helmet across the trailer or what? You know what I mean? But he's just not like that at all. He's very just like, down to earth and very mindful about what we do and how we do it, and puts great people around us. And my second year with him, we won a championship, and I've won a bunch of races with him already. And he's been able to be etched in the history books now with drag racing and NASCAR and all the IndyCar stuff and everything else that he's done. All the circle track and dirt track stuff, and the guy's just a wheel man. You know what I mean? So I do look up to him as that aspect, like that he can get in there and drive anything. But it's one of those things where I just like cutting up with him, behind the scenes too. I mean, me and him do a lot of those little challenge videos and stupid videos, and he's a great sport about it, man. And so many people come up and like we did one where his little hands were in front of me and he was feeding me a burger
I
and
saw that one.
all that kind of stuff. And I mean, he's we're just cutting up, man, having a good time. So it's pretty cool to have a boss like that.
That's awesome. I think it's probably a little bit easier to name off some things that he hasn't driven than the things that he has. But yeah, absolute world class wheel man. I'm excited to see how you guys build this out because I know you already got a ton of momentum, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see the future for Tony Stewart, especially with Matt Hagan behind the wheel.
Well, I tell you, man, we've what I would say, and I would, my dad taught me something really early on in life was that he's a big business guy. He's got 43 companies and 900 employees, and so growing up, I've watched him, start companies, run companies, do different things. And the thing that he's always told me is surround yourself with the best possible people that you can find, ones that are smarter than you, that work harder than you, that are dedicated, motivated, that are driven, that come in early and leave late, those type of things. And I've really tried to do that in every aspect of my life and my businesses, and also on the race team and different things like that. And I really truly think that's why I've been so successful, to win 56 races and 4 championships and run it up a bunch of times and set a bunch of national records and different things like that. It's not because of me. It's because of the group of people we have around us. And I'm talking about it takes everyone from the gal doing the hospitality to the PR people to the guy pouring the oil in to me, leaving the starting line. I mean, it's a village of people that make this happen. And I think that it's easy to sit here on the podcast and pat yourself on the back, and say, hey, look what I've done, but it's truly not doable without the folks that really make it happen. And I just don't mess it up when they put a good race car underneath me, So it's just it's one of those things where I've been very, very blessed to have such a good group of people around me that's really pushed us forward and just worked really hard to get us in the positions we are. And then just being able to rise to the occasion and being able to make things happen when that opportunity comes. And I think that's where you see a lot of people, the difference between people that are champions and the ones that never get there. Just being able to capitalize on those opportunities.
That's a good stat from Drag Race Mayhem on Twitter. You guys have the best ET average so far this season of all funny car teams. He's been
Oh
keeping
man.
track of all that. So your average ET is the best so far this season. So that's a testament to your team. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Knutson is he's doing a great job, So I've been with I've had a championship with Tommy Delago, and I've won championships with Dickie Venables, and Mike Knutson he's kind of like, hey man, I'm going to go be a crew chief, and he said I'm going to be one here, I'm going to be one somewhere else. He's just 15 years under Dickie. He felt like it's his time to go and try to do these things on his own, and and it was one of those things that was a tough decision for Tony because Mike was going to take probably half the team with him and the other half would stay with Dickie. And, it would just kind of like mix things up. And, so I think sitting down and talking to Tony and, going forward with the future of what we're trying to do here, having this young kid, Mike, kind of come in and step up to the plate, it was a tough decision, but I think that Tony, obviously sees the opportunity and, promoting within and growing the future and different things like that. And Mike has just killed it, man. Like he's knocked it out of the park. We've done really well. We run it up last year, had a real chance at winning the championship. Didn't get to run the last race because of the rain and different things like that. So there's always that question of what if, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. And then starting off this season, 3 races in, tied with Caps for the points lead. Already won a race and going some rounds. So I think Mike is getting a really good handle on the racetrack, getting a really good handle on the race car, making some great decisions out there. And, just one of those things where we're really starting to race our lane instead of who's beside of us. And I think, it's one of those things where Phil Schuler was a good add to the team as well. He's helped the dragster a little bit on Leah's car. But he's also one of those guys where, with Mike and Alex, they're kind of still pretty young guys. And Phil kind of brings that dad feel to it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you guys can go out here and do this a little bit, but we're going to reel you in, and dad's going to tell you it's going to be all right. You know what
That's
I
a
mean?
good team.
Yeah. So it still gives that comfort feeling a little bit, So, but all in all, man, I'm in probably the best spot I've ever been in my career, and I've been out here a long time. We've had a lot of success over the years, but I've never had what I have right now, and that's just a group of guys that we just show up and everybody's gelling, everybody's getting along, we're all having fun. So that's what's exciting to me, is being able to come to work and know that everybody's just on the same page. We're all pulling the rope in the same direction. I've never had that. There's always something that's, this or that, or somebody's personalities clashing, or this, and so we're always working through that adversity. But this year, I mean, it's kind of, towards the end of last year, it was like, wow, we really got something here. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. Jordan?
Yeah, a little bit just off of what David had said earlier in regards to the changes with Tony and the impact. I know that there is a shift that happened with Leah returning, similar to the way that she, stepped out, right? And it seems like she's totally, completely locked in. Like she has a really new, fresh, driven attitude, it seems, from all of her interviews so far. How has that impacted your entire team, and maybe not just your team directly, but TSR as a whole? How do you feel like her returning and kind of Tony leaving, I guess, for lack of a better term, how has that changed you guys? Has that also maybe played into you guys becoming closer, like you mentioned?
Yeah, well, Leah's been my teammate for a long time. I raced for Don Schumacher for like 14 years, and a big chunk of that she was there, wheeling a dragster in our camp. And I think what was really cool to see with Leah is that when she stepped away, she didn't really step away. She was doing so much behind the scenes stuff and getting involved in. We have several sponsors that came on that she's been kind of like hand grooming and picking, and they're helping with some of our data, and actually, this sponsor here, it's Perella, I think. But I always get it wrong. I try to think of Panera Bread, but it's if I don't have my car, I can't read it. You know what I mean? I'm always
Yeah.
reading off sponsors. I'm like, oh yeah. But they're a data company as well, and they've been helping with our tune-ups and compiling data and different things like that. So she was working with that kind of stuff behind the scenes, and people just have no idea what goes on behind the scenes and all the day-to-day stuff and keeping that kind of together. So I think that people said, "Oh, she took the time off to go be a mom," but she was still really there the whole time and coaching Tony and getting him through, getting comfortable in the car and doing all the things that you have to do to get mentally prepared for that kind of stuff. And then decides to come back and has a baby at the racetrack and then a dog, and then like all the fans and all the stuff. I mean, I just have fans, and I'm just like, you're pulled in 10 different directions and doing all these things in TV. And so I can't imagine with having a small child and a dog and a motorhome and the TV and the fans, so it's incredible to watch her do what she's doing. She's doing a great job with it. Obviously there's still like getting comfortable in the car after being gone for a couple years. But it's like riding a bike, right? You make a couple hits, you get some laps in, you start, kind of getting your brain starts to slow everything back down again. Everybody's kind of like, how do you make decisions in there? In 3 seconds. And it becomes slow mo after you do it so long. But it's never been like, hey, look at the pretty girl up in the stands in row 3. You know what I mean? It's not like that at all. You know what I mean? But it slows down enough to where you can hear the cylinders firing, you can feel the clutch come to it, you can hear the motor coming after the clutch, different things like that. And you're making those decisions in there. So I think, for her, it's going to take some laps to kind of get that mentality of stuff slowing down. But that just comes with seat time, right? And she's doing a great job there. And then obviously putting the team together with Tony, she's been very hands-on with that. With Richard Freeman and all those guys over there with the elite group. And it's just like they have so many people and so much stuff going on, and we're kind of like parked over there beside of it, and it's just big camp and big organization, and I'm just like, all right, guys, let's stay focused over here in our little area, and you just keep doing what we're doing, but there's there's definitely a lot going on and a lot to take in.
That's a ton. That's an amazing, and you wouldn't even know that she's busy looking
Oh
at
yeah,
her. That's the thing.
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I I do have a question. I saw an interview the other day where you're sneaking in some keywords in your top end interviews.
Yeah,
I hope
some
that you guys,
jackrabbit in her
yeah,
mouth.
dude.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard Jackrabbit, I was like, I think I know about what he's going to talk about saying that. But I hope you guys keep that up. That's a fun little deal. That was pretty funny. Who came up with that? Where'd that come from?
So Nikki from NHRA, she does all their media and stuff. She came over and she's like, "You think you could work this in?" I was like, "I'll figure it out one way or another," you know. And then you had Wilkerson work one in too, and I think his was sock or something. So I've heard
Stocks,
people
yeah.
like work in meow and different things like that. How many times you can say meow? You know, so who knows what's next? But I know that I absolutely am loving having fun on social media. I mean, like all these race day fits and all the stuff that we're doing with the challenges and the stupid challenges and the funny challenges and different things like that. And everybody's like, "Bro, you're a farmer. What are you doing wearing sprayed on cheetah pants?" You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like for me, it's I'm just having fun, right? Like my Amazon account looks crazy, right? I mean, it just like no one would ever dream that you'd show up or wear that kind of stuff, but that's the point, right? Like you step outside of your comfort zone and you have fun with it. And some people just take stuff way too serious, man. It's not like that's not
Yeah.
what my wardrobe looks like at home. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where you just you're doing it, having fun with it. And I think it's unique because it does take work. It does take time to do it. You have to pick it out. You have to try it on. You have to buy the stuff. You have to, the whole deal. So I don't see anybody really kind of like doing that in our sport because it takes effort, right? And it takes money to do it. And it's one of those things where, at the end of last season, I was like, man, I'm kind of done, because you got to try the stuff on and you roll the luggage cart out and, it's a rack of clothes and you're just like, God, I don't want to try this stuff on, you know what I mean? And then you got to pack it and take it with you and all that stuff. So, but on top of that, our fans really engage with that, right? Like they really, I mean, I get more responses sometimes to that than I do winning a race. It's so wild. But I think people can relate to some of that stuff, and they're just kind of like, "What's next?" You know what I mean? There's so many people that'll come in on Friday and Saturday, and they'll be like, "What's the fit, man? What are we wearing today?" You know what I mean? Like, what's going to be on Sunday? So it's cool. And it's one of those things where I think that the folks that take it too serious, then they're obviously way too serious. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of we're having fun with it and living it up. And some stuff's goofy and some stuff I'm like, I would never wear that, but I'm gonna put it on today. You know what I mean? So we just having fun.
That makes it
The
real
two that
though.
we just put
Oh yeah.
up are my favorite. I sent those in. And that we
Okay,
talked
right on.
to Elon from Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, and he was like, I was like, yep, we're gonna have Matt on. He's like, you have to ask him about his race day fits. I was like, I know. The winner one
Yeah.
was my favorite one, and I actually am a little sad that you just said you don't wear them out because this one is fire. You have to wear this somewhere.
Yeah.
You have to find something.
Yeah. No, I wear them here and there, but like a lot of times it's just like, you get there and you change and you go on about your day and some of that stuff goes back to Amazon, some of the stuff you hang back up in the closet, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things where if you could see my Amazon account, you'd be like, what in the world? You know what I mean? But it's but yeah, no, I mean, I think some people like, I want to get back to some of the suits and some different things like that and just kind of like, like there's a couple I did that I just felt like bam, you know what I mean? Like it looked crisp and good and that kind of thing. But there's also some stuff out there you're just going like, we'll try it, we'll see, you know what I mean? But it's like the last time we were in Phoenix, I had chaps on them. Everybody's like, dude, are you like a YMCA guy? I was like, I don't really care, you know what I mean? Like it's whatever, So it's kind of it's just fun. So you never know what you're gonna get, you never know what you're gonna see. Like I did Brainerd and I had like some sprayed on cheetah pants. And I was like, I don't even think I can get these things on, man. It's just like look like somebody spray painted them on. And that's, for a country farm boy, that's stepping out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that
Elon's one
is.
question when he brought it up was like, you have to ask him, when is he doing these? Like, when does he find the time? Especially the ones where you're like in like a hotel. He's like, when is he doing these? Why are there not people around?
Yeah, I try to do them late at night. You know what I mean? Sometimes, when when somebody, or early that Sunday morning, you know what I mean? When people, Sunday mornings, a lot of people are sleeping in and whatnot, you know, so you'll run down there in the lobby real quick and take some pictures and stuff like that. You know, so just kind of get them in when you can. But I tell you what, you know, when there are people around, you get a lot of looks, you know, because you got a camera and you're like kind of posing and walking and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So people are going like, what is going on in the lobby over here at the hotel, you know?
What's this dude
They're
doing?
What's
starting to
this
Google
dude
you while
doing?
you
Yeah.
walk away. Who is this guy at my hotel
Yeah.
in the cheetah pants?
Right. That's right. That's right.
That is awesome. That's
I
that.
personally love it. I agree with all the fans who are like, it's refreshing, it's nice, it's
No,
so
well,
fun.
thanks.
And I am the same way. I'm like, what is it going to be this week? I always am looking for like themes. I'm like, is he going to follow a theme for where they
Yeah,
are? Can I
I try to
guess?
do stuff like for where you're at, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like so like Charlotte, I got some stuff that picked out kind of like Panther looking stuff, you know, and I got
Okay.
some Panther jewelry and some different, you know, just trying to do some stuff like that, you know, that we, you know, that area how to relate. And sometimes you can, you know, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And then sometimes you pick some stuff and it's like, oh, you know, it's people got to kind of figure it out a little bit, you know, but it's usually about the area
Yeah.
that we're at and what we're doing, you know, that kind of stuff.
I'll volunteer to ship you my
Yeah.
orange and white checkerboard bibs for
Let's do it.
when you go to Bristol, and you can put on the checkerboard bibs, the big
Let's
orange
do it.
bibs.
Yeah, I'm
Heck
always
yeah.
looking for ideas, man. We need some fresh stuff. That's for sure. Yeah, it'll be
Oh
good.
no, I think we lost him again. That's all right. He'll race.
Yeah, that's all
Well,
right.
it's all right. I wanted to talk about the Winter Nationals for you. He's back. That's all
Yep.
right. We're all good.
I'm still gonna
Um,
bibs though. We'll trade
yeah,
Let's
send
do
the
it.
bibs.
bibs for beef sticks.
Here we go. We'll
Yeah.
trade out.
Yeah, that'll work.
If
Um,
I wasn't in Wisconsin, I know you guys are going to be in Chicagoland very soon. I would send you something Packers wise, but I want you to have fans. I don't want people to dislike you if you're in Chicago. So
That's funny.
I'm sorry, my offer will be invalid.
Uh,
um, so talking about the 75th NHRA season, and you know, you said you've been in NHRA, obviously drag racing for a while, and I got some fan mail today. Mr. Jason Gillenwater on TikTok sent me some stuff, but here is a Matt Hagan. This was taken in 2007, I think he said. It was
oh
signed in
wow.
2011, I believe, but that is way back when.
Yeah, it really is.
So what does 75 years of NHRA drag racing? You've been part of it for 20. I mean, you know, a good part of
Yeah.
it. You know, what does that mean to you? Especially coming off that 1,000th funny car win. You know, what does that
Yeah,
mean to
you know,
you?
I mean, I drove a pro mod for 6 years before I stepped into a fuel car, and you know, I've been racing since I was like 19 years old. You know, in some way, shape, or form, as far as in NHRA categories goes, and you know, it's just it's so cool to think that we've had 1,000 funny car races so far. You know, Jim Dunn was the first one to win. You know, Snake had the 100th, and Force had 500, and then we pulled down the 1,000th. And I'll be dusting the wind, man, when 2,000 rolls around. So I mean, it's incredible that our sport has lasted this long. I mean, because you've seen a lot of things kind of come and go. I've seen a lot of people come and go. You know, I mean, look at that picture right there. I look like I ate that kid right there. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you know, I'm twice that size now. You know what I mean? So it's like, what? There's a young guy right there. You know, but had hair and everything, man. But it's just one of those things where, you know, it's just incredible to think that I'm still out here, man. You know, because I never really set out here to do this, right? Like it just right place, right time. You know, around the right people, and it just kind of evolved into what it was and what it is today, and just so blessed because like I said, you know, there's been so many years that sponsorship was going to fall through, and you know, this wasn't going to happen, or we couldn't make that happen, and you know, someone stepped up, or Don Schumacher pulled money out of his pocket, or my pops, you know, did some stuff with the dealership, or whatever it was, we got it done, you know. And I've had several sponsors that you get into a quarter of the season and they write you a bad check, you know what I mean, and you're going like, oh man, what do we do now, you know what I mean, and stuff's already painted, and the, you know, we got all the hero cards out, and I mean, they're just, over the years you've had so many things that could have gone wrong and should have gone wrong, but yet here we still are. And you know, Dodge has been with me for like 19 years, and it's been incredible. You know, I mean, the to have the sponsors that we have. You know, now with Jason Johnson with Johnson Horsepower Garage, he's a really good friend of mine. You know, him and Nikki. They're just good people. I enjoy hanging out with them outside of the races and stuff, and we travel together and do different things and just have fun. And then you got Andy Ross with American Rebel Beer, and Andy, he comes out and hunts on my farm, and we just have a good time, and he's promoting his beer, and so it's like I'm so blessed to have sponsors that I can just actually be myself and get along, and it's not so corporate American, it's not so cookie cutter, and I'm not getting my hand slapped for saying this or doing that, or I can just be me. And I think it really makes a full circle on being able to be who you are, and drive the way you want to drive, and say what you want to say, and just stand up for what you want to stand up for. It's refreshing, man, because like I said, I know there's a lot of times where in corporate America, like at this and that, and this sponsorship's falling through, and you got to make this happen, and so again, just blessed to still be out here. Never thought I'd be out here this long. We got a multi-year contract with TSR, so we're going to be doing it for a few more years anyway, and having fun doing it. So very, very blessed.
Well, he also sent me this. This was his birthday cake last year.
Oh, wow.
His direct quote is, "Big fan of Matt Hagan. I love watching his ass race."
Oh, that's
So there
awesome.
you go.
That's super cool.
That's Mr.
Yeah,
Jason Gillenwater.
I
He's going
love
to be at
that.
Bristol. I said, "We'll go by and see him. Maybe
Yeah, man, and tell my guys if I ain't out at the,
Yeah.
come get me, come say hi for sure.
Yeah." Jordan. Oh, no sound.
No audio.
Sound. There
Sorry,
you go.
can you
Yeah,
hear
we got
me?
you now.
Alright.
Okay. As I was just talking about how you left us, I was like, when you dipped, and then here I am muted like an idiot.
It happens.
I just wanted to ask, I know you talked a little bit about the 1,000th milestone and what that means to you, but like, has it that, and plus all of the successes that you had with your team this weekend, has that really set in for you? I know you've been doing some press, so it's like, have you kind of been in a whirlwind? Does it feel real? Have you seen any pictures and you're like, oh my God, that happened to me? That
Yeah.
was me.
I mean, it's just really is unreal. I mean, to sit back and look at all the trophies and all the stuff that we've accomplished over the years, and to add this one to it, is unbelievable. I mean, I really felt like between me or Caps, it couldn't go wrong. I mean, Caps is a great guy, and I love battling out with him. We were teammates for a long time. He took me under his wing, and we broke bread together, and we parked motorhomes together, and he was one of the only guys that I was like, hey, come hang out with me and my family. You know what I mean? And so I just got a lot of love for him, and I love running him in the final. And Caps is one of those guys where he if you beat him, he still comes over and BS's with you and high fives you and gives you a hug and all that kind of stuff. And I was standing behind his car the other day when he was winning. I was really rooting for him, you know what I mean? And it's just one of those things where after you build that relationship, after a while, you just root for people, man. And he's a good guy. And so I figured, I didn't want to put more pressure on myself to try to win that thing, you know what I mean? Like, there's always pile of pressure, and that's going to be a massive milestone in the history of the sport, and to be able to pull it down would be huge. But you also go up there going like, man, you know what I mean, no more pressure, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, I just kind of rolled up there and was like, hey, if he gets it, cool. If I get it, it'd be even better, you know what I mean? And it's gonna end up in the hands of some good people no matter what. And but at the end of the day, I truly love running Caps, in the finals. Me and him have battled it out for a lot, and it was really kind of wild because back in the day we had the same parts and pieces, you know what I mean? So it was really kind of like a throwdown on the line of whoever just left the start line better, you know what I mean? So it's just always cool. I mean, same with Jack Beckman and those guys, and TJ back in the day and all that kind of stuff. So just got a lot of history with a lot of those folks. But these races they only come around so often, and so to be able to win that, to be able to pull that down, and be able to put that trophy up on the shelf is massive.
I mean, he did give you all you could handle in that final round. It was
Oh,
a
man, bro, I
tight
about messed it
tight
up. I
final
mean,
round.
I'm
It was
gonna tell you,
tight.
I literally almost two-stepped the car. I went up there, I was so amped up, and I wanted it. And like you can see on the graph, like I let the brake go, and I start to hit the pedal, and then I grab the brake back up and pull the pedal back out. And are you guys still there?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then I go. So like I thought I had a 150 light instead of a 57 light. And I just kept looking the whole run. I kept looking over to the left to see where his nose was at. And I never saw it. And I was like, man, maybe he smoked the tires, excuse me, but but it ended up, we won by 7 thousandths of a second, and I guess that's all it took. But I damn near, I guess stepped on my own feet right there. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
hey, it worked out.
And this one's going down to the wire. Finish line, it's going to be Matt Hagan.
Yeah,
what a win, what a weekend for Tony Stewart.
Flames up, and man, it's a heck of a race, man.
That's a good drag race. I mean, that's just a good old drag race.
That is. That's what the fans want.
All of the finals were really good races.
Yes.
Like, I was really excited. I have to say, you can ask David, I was like down bad with the flu on race day, and I woke up and like had my iPad 2 feet from my face, and I was like, David, these finals are crazy. Like, I would fall asleep in between the track prep issues because I was sick. But I remember being like, oh my God, Matt. Oh my God, Tony. Like, I'm texting him. I'm like, how is this happening right now? It was a really, from a fan perspective, a very incredible race day. Like, awesome.
Yeah, everybody loves to see some side by side stuff. You know what I mean? No, don't get me wrong. I think there's days and races that people want to see pedal fests and all that kind of stuff, and it just kind of, you never know what you're going to get, because everybody's like talks about the power in these cars and how much torque, and it's just trying to apply that power to the racetrack is really tricky. I feel like we're always trying to pull the power back to go down the racetrack, more or less, than push it forward. There's very few runs that you're just like got her all wicked up and all she can do. But, there's a lot of times you're just reeling it in. And that's what I'll tell everybody. I'm like, I'm a big guy, right? Like, so it's one of those things where they're like, how in the world do you fit in there, and how do they go so fast with you? But I kind of relate it to like throwing a feed sack on a locomotive. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't know that 50-pound feed sack is there. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I tell my crew chief all the time. He's like, well, weight matters. And I was just like, I don't know, bud. I think it's the application of power or the lack thereof. Yeah. So
maybe
I mean, and I've never had a crew chief. Yeah, I've never had a crew chief go like, oh, we're out of power. I'm like, not once, not one time have I. And I was like telling them, I was like, so you're telling me if we put another 100 pounds on me that you couldn't get it to smoke the tires? And they're like, yeah, we could probably make it smoke tires. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my my argument to being a big guy. So that's why I keep stuffing potatoes in my mouth. You know what I mean?
It works in this style. It works in this style of racing.
Yeah.
But yeah, potatoes and beef sticks don't sound too bad, though. I tell you that.
Yeah, man, it keeps me going.
So one last thing I wanted to ask about the tethers. I know there was some, that's a big. I love what you said, and I know you were critical, but when you said we need people that have driven these cars to design these things, and I agree. Like, how much reaching out was there for that? It doesn't sound like there was a lot of back and forth.
My dog's barking.
Hey, you're good, man. It happens. That's what they do.
Yeah, they do. I got some black Russian terriers, and things are as big as I am. You know what I mean? But but yeah, I really have some issues with the tethers. I mean, I think that I came along driving these cars when the bodies would blow off of them. It rips the parachutes out. You can see the fire goes away, straightens the car out, all that kind of stuff. And I get that we've had a body or two land up in the stands. I think someone, from what I could read and what I've heard reported, someone had a sprained wrist from kind of like pushing a body away from them and stuff like that. But I blew up 6 times last year, and I think that if you crawl on these things that you don't think something's going to happen, then you're foolish to get on them, right? Like, so we all understand the risk that we're taking by getting in the cars. I just feel like that we're increasing that risk exponentially by tethering these cars down. I mean, basically, if you put a firecracker in your hand and you open up your hand and light it off, it's going to burn you pretty bad. But you close your hand around that firecracker and it's going to knock your fingers off. Well, that's what we're doing with these bodies. We're closing that around that massive engine explosion. That's a massive amount of energy that's kind of like detonating underneath that body, and you're trying to keep it there. On top of the majority of the time that I've had blowups here lately, basically the firewall becomes where the windshield is, and the windshield's way up here. So you're looking into a black carbon space that you can't see where the racetrack's at. I can't see where my guy's at beside me. I can't see where the wall's at. You're just along for the ride. And then, what happens is you're basically putting all your eggs in one basket on an air mechanism that puts the parachutes out when it blows up, because when that body blows up, my parachutes where we tie our hands down, I can't get to, because it's usually the parachutes are right in front of your brake handle. But when that body blows up, you can't get to those parachutes anymore because it's sticking up there and it's floating around in front of you and all that stuff. So there's an airline that runs back through there, and you're hoping that airline does not get compromised in that blow up to put the solenoid to push the parachutes out. Versus when the bodies are on there, the body comes off. The car goes this way, parachutes are connected, so it rips the parachutes out no matter what, right? Like, so the parachutes are going to come out.
Right.
And then on top of that, we have an opportunity to have a lot more fire on top of us because the bodies are staying on top of us. The carbon starts burning, you take in more smoke, you have more fire, have more chance of getting burned up. So for me, I understand all that's happening. I've been through it a bunch of times already. I just, I lay in bed going like, man, you've accomplished everything that you ever set out here to do. Why are you still crawling in the car knowing that this thing's probably going to hurt you eventually? But it's like, this is what I do, and people are like, if you're scared of it, why don't you quit? And I'm like, quit and do what? I've been doing this for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Right.
But up until this last couple years, they haven't been tethering the cars down, probably the last 5. And, I've been jumping up and down about it the whole time. And honestly, I feel like John Force, he, whether he would still be driving or not, he would be in a lot different situation than he is now without any head trauma if the tethers weren't on there. You know what I mean? Like, he probably would have just come back and made the other round. The parachutes would have came out. He wouldn't hit the wall. He could have seen where he was at. Just on and on and on.
Yeah.
Plus, on top of that, people have to understand there's only one way out of these things, and that's through a small square on the top of this thing. So when that body gets blown up and it gets shrouded in pieces, and that body moves around, there you get wedged in there, or you can't get out of that hole. Then you're
It ain't
stuck
like
in
you can
this
just
thing
look
when they're on
up.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. So all those examples, we've increased the danger for the driver. But we also understand have to protect our fans. But we haven't really had any fans get hurt, but we've already had a bunch of drivers get hurt from what we're trying to do. So what's the right answer? I don't know. I mean, I know Tim Wilkerson is, him and Murph McKinney, they've done a good job of trying to engineer some stuff. They cut out the firewall to let some of that energy out. But as you could see, their last explosion this last weekend on the starting line, it took 3 guys to lift the body up. So that's an issue there, so there's going to be, one action has a different reaction. You change this, it creates this problem over here, different things like that. I don't know what the solution is. I just know that with the tethers, they're not safe for the drivers. And we're the ones that are going 300 miles an hour and can't see. And that feels pretty dumb to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, that's just not real smart. You know what I mean? So, but there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity. You know what I mean? So, and I think he walked that razor blade all the time. And I love our fans. I love our sport. I love what we do. I want to keep everybody safe. I want to keep our fans safe. I want to keep our drivers safe. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that what we're doing now increases the opportunity for drivers to get hurt exponentially.
Yeah. I knew that I could tell that one top end interview. I knew that was that, like, pretty obvious. It's pretty passionate. It should be. It should
Yeah,
be. I
well,
mean,
it's just you can't see, man, at 300
right.
miles an hour. It's like I don't even know how to put that in someone's brain. It's just like, just be thinking about going 300 miles an hour and have no control and can't even see where you're at. That's
And you got
that's the
fire in your
word.
face.
Yeah, and you got fire all over you. You know what I mean? It's just like that's not a great feeling. You know what I mean? So
No.
I told my guys, I was like, "Look, at least let's make my firewall out of plexiglass where I could at least see where the person is beside me or see the wall." I mean, I was literally trying to drive off of the light post. I was looking up so far to see where the light posts were on the track.
God.
And they're spread out so far, but at least I knew I was moving in the right direction of there's a light post and there's a light post and trying to stay in between those some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? To get the thing slowed down. So I don't know. I mean, I think that anybody that has an argument with it, they've just never been in a situation like that. And unfortunately, I I've been in a situation where I thought I was going to die before. I mean, you see people jump out of skyscrapers and you go like, why would you jump out of a 40 foot building or whatever to your death when it's on fire? But the fire gets so hot, and what happens is the heat transfers through your suit, right? Like, so the sweat on your body basically gets like, it's a steam burn, right? Like, you don't really burn through the suit, but the heat transfers through. That's why we want to layer up so much. But you start panicking and you start taking in all this smoke, and then you panic more, and then you're going like, oh my God, I might not get out of this. Like I might die, you know, and then you start getting blistered up and burned up and you start freaking out more. And, you know, I was trying to jump out of the car and it was still probably running 150 miles an hour, but I hadn't even unbuckled myself because I was freaking out that much, you know? So those type of situations, when you're going through them, you know, no one can tell you how to get through those until you go through it, you know, and that happened really early on in my career. One of my first races that I had one of my worst fires, but it prepared me for a lot of these other explosions and fires and things that we've done along the ways. But I don't ever want anybody to ever go through that or experience that, because I truly, you know, I don't know if very many people in their life have been like, I'm gonna die, you know what I mean? Like, and they really thought that, you know what I mean? So it's a tough situation to be in, but I think that if you drive these cars and you don't think that you're going to be in those situations, you got no business doing it. And not that I want to be a daredevil or this or that. It's what I know how to do, and I feel like I'm good at it. And I put the best safety gear on that I can, and I got the best guys working on the car, and you give me the best shot of being safe, and you know, and you consider the risk, and you know what you're doing. But there's also things that we can do that to not add to that, you know what I mean, which is take the tethers off and do
Right.
different things to where we're not increasing that opportunity for one of these drivers not to walk away from here.
I think your argument is completely valid too about
Absolutely.
like, oh, every action has a reaction and then we have to work off of that. Like basically we're just admitting to doing like trial and error, and there are totally people's lives at stake here. And not only that, but like also people's whole livelihoods and their businesses. Like not everybody can just blow up a whole race car and then come back to do another
Right.
round, right? So it's like we're now like
Yeah.
kind of putting all of that at stake to try to figure out a solution. Like, is there ever really going to be a solution? Or is it just like, well, this works for now? You know what I mean? And I don't know if
Yeah.
it's worth putting people's lives, like you said, like the way you're describing it is horrifying. I don't know if it's worth putting lives at risk.
Watching the light poles at, I don't know how fast are you going at that point, 220,
Yeah.
slowing down, 230,
Yeah.
like, and
Even at 150,
knowing,
it's
yeah,
not
even
great.
at 150 with fires, like what a
And
God,
like
that would be
what you're
terrifying.
describing about how you're feeling of like thinking about that and then like feeling it, the things happening through your suit and your skin, and like you're thinking about all this, you're still like trying to stop a literal race car
Yeah.
at this point. Like you are still
It's
No
trying
crazy.
to
one said
stop
we're
it.
smart, right?
People next to
No.
you, you're thinking about all. No, it's not even that. But I think the people that maybe have decisions to make when it comes to safety maybe aren't thinking about everything that you
Yeah.
just mentioned
Well,
when
a
making
lot
those
of them,
decisions.
yeah, a lot of the folks, they've never drove anything like that, so they think, well, we can do this. And you know, a lot of them are engineers, and they're you know, some I had an engineer one time. I said, you're the smartest stupid person I know, you know what I mean? Like, it just, you know, they're very educated, but they're not very common sense smart, you know. And it just
Yeah,
sometimes you just gotta, you know, work through that with them and understand and explain to them kind of some of the things that are going on, and what happens in those situations, and how much energy that really is, you know, that it just it's a bomb going off in your lap, you know. Now we have a titanium hand shield that basically helps deflect some of that energy. I mean, but before I drove with a hand shield, I mean, it literally, you know, the concussion of it, I thought I knocked some of my fingers off, you know what I mean? You throw your gloves down and you're like, oh, I still got 10 fingers, you know what I mean? You're like, thank God, you know what I mean? But you can't feel them because they're stinging so bad, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But now the hand shields help deflect some of that. I mean, we put things in place over time to help with that kind of stuff,
yeah,
and these cars have gotten a lot safer along the way. And you know, I think that NHRA has been open minded to take the steps that they need to listen to some of the crew chiefs, to listen to some of these chassis builders, to do some of the, so they're not just like, oh, this is it and too bad and, you know, so sad, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I still think there needs to be some stuff that we still have to address, you know what I mean, with these cars moving forward as far as funny cars go.
Sure.
I always like
Totally.
to ask engineers, it took to learn how to drive a train. It really, that pisses me off.
That's
Jordan,
funny.
do you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think so. Other than like, thanks for spending some time with us
Yeah,
and going
absolutely,
into all
dude.
this
Oh
with us.
yeah.
It was awesome.
Well,
Like,
and I just
thank
want
you
to
very
thank
much.
our fans. Obviously, we can win every race out there, right? And win the championship, and it doesn't pay for what it costs to run these cars. I mean, every time I make a pull, it's $7,000 if it doesn't hurt anything. And we truly can't do that without our sponsors, but our sponsors wouldn't be here without our fans. So the folks that go out there and they buy the Mobile One and they buy the products and the parts and the pieces and all the things that support, what we do out here, because they say, oh, well, they support a drag racer, so we're going to buy their product. It goes a long ways, and I just want to say thanks for our fans to do that, because without our fans, we don't have racing, so it really means a lot.
Very well said.
Spectacular.
Matt, thank you very much again for taking some time out of your day. I appreciate it. Good luck coming up. We're going to have some ATYL media on site, so maybe they'll be coming looking for you.
Let's go.
But good luck this weekend, and I'll get with you on them bibs for Bristol. We're gonna make
Let's do it, man. We'll trade out some beef sticks.
Heck yeah, sounds good.
All right, sounds good.
For everybody
Thanks,
here
guys.
at Nitro Nation, thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Bye, Matt. Thank you.
See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well, Jordan, thank you very much. For everybody here at Nitro Nation, ATYL, Miss Taylor Kitchen, myself, Miss Jordan Wick. Heck of a show. Thank you very much. We're getting out of here. We will see you
next week.
Next week after the Four Wides.
Charlotte. Okay.
maybe Adam can stop by. We'll see.
We'll see.
Y'all have a good night. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you.